All right, so yeah, animals at the forefront. And you're absolutely right. I don't think that that's justifiable. You can make an argument for carbon emissions being so and so, and you can make an argument that meat does in fact have protein. But when it comes to slicing somebody's throat, who is a living sentient being just like you and I think that's where at least you and I draw the line, as well as probably everybody in here. So I do appreciate that. Let's take another question from the audience. Okay, here's a fun one. Favorite homemade vegan meal?
Favorite homemade vegan meal? Toast with almond butter and dates.
Toast
Best meal ever.
with almond butter and dates?
It tastes like a candy bar. It is so good.
No
You gotta
kidding.
try it. The most underrated meal I've had.
Is this like an official Hudson Tarlow cookbook recipe? What's going on?
Do you know Simdat Nutrition? He's a vegan. He's like a plant-based fitness YouTuber. I was watching his videos. He had a eat what he eats in a day. I saw it like 3 months ago, and then every day since I've been eating almond butter and date sandwiches. It's so good.
Almond butter and date sandwiches, man. That's
It's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but with dates instead of jelly.
Okay. That's,
Good, yeah, you
that's
gotta have
pretty
it.
neat, man. I like that. I actually have a pasta that I make. It's kind of like a protein-loaded pasta. I make it with chickpea pasta. I put in some shiitake mushrooms, 3 types of beans, red, white, and black beans. I throw in a bag of broccoli. It's like a huge protein bonanza. And after that, nobody can tell me that vegans don't get enough protein, because
Totally.
I make a bunch and it'll last me a couple of days.
Cool.
So let me ask you this, Hud. Speaking of COVID-19, which we previously discussed, we are in the midst of an outbreak, the likes of which your generation hasn't seen, my generation hasn't seen. You and I both know that this type of disease would not exist in a vegan world, as evidenced by your TikTok the other day. How can this community turn something so devastating into something positive through our activism?
I think that, if anything, this should be the sign, something that I have been so passionate about lately. Vegans, and I myself, for 2 years, my main priority when I talked with non-vegans was to first spread the message, but also be liked. I always made it my priority. I want this person to leave fully liking me, and I obviously I do like that. That is nice when the person leaves liking you. But with this virus, when the root cause is from eating animals. It's from animal exploitation and human supremacy. This virus and the mentality that leads us to eating bats is no different than the one that leads us to eating cows, pigs, chickens. We don't have time to be messing around and be pandering and trying to be Mr. Nice Guy here, when the reason why we're indoors is because of this mentality, this human supremacy mentality. So that's really inspired me. Like in my post, I'm just not beating around the bush anymore. You're either an animal abuser or you're not. It's that simple. Yeah. And that's something that I've just been, we don't have much time. I don't know how much time we have left on this planet, so I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Yeah. You and I both, but I've seen quite a bit of transformation from your activism. You were the happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but recently, you've been getting rubbed off from Paul and Asal, and they are, they don't coddle this, man. We don't have time to baby the subject anymore. And so I'm being a little bit more brash, perhaps, in my posts sometimes. I even accepted sort of like a dark mode theme to my Instagram, because it's kind of like my way of paying my respects for the needless murder that is going on every single day. And so it's like I'm forever in mourning. As you can see, I even painted my studio wall black to match my Instagram, because I've seen your transformation. You were like, and now you're pretty direct, man. But you know what? Admittedly, it's a breath of fresh air, and I'm kind of digging it. I think a lot of your followers can definitely appreciate where you're coming from now. I think if anything, this was a New Year's resolution for you in 2020 to be a little bit more direct.
Was. That's when I started.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's swing by the comment section here. So guys, I'm loving the questions here. Let's see. Hey guys, a lot of Okay. Interesting question. Here we go. Dating non-vegans, I find it hard to do. Your opinion? I've actually tackled this subject in the past quite a bit, but I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Can you date a girl that's not vegan?
I would give it 2 dates, and because I understand nobody's born vegan, I do get that, and I also understand that we can't make animal rights a mockery, and we can't trivialize the suffering of these animals. Just like how I would never date, if I went on a date and the girl was talking about racism and homophobia and anti-Semitism, that'd be the clear sign that we clearly don't share the same values. So I would give it 1 date, and after that, 1 date is plenty of time to say the truth and, send her Gary Yourofsky's speech in Dominion. After that, if she doesn't go vegan, that'd be a clear sign that we don't have compatible values.
Yeah, it's so, like, go fix yourself, dude, and get back. You actually made me laugh. Like, 1 date, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I could probably give it the benefit of the doubt. Admittedly, I'm seeing somebody who's not a vegan, and so we've had our fair share of differences concerning the topic. She's perused my Instagram every now and then, and she's a little bit scared of what she sees. We are going to give it a shot, a good old college try, and we'll see what happens. But in a perfect world, you probably would date somebody who shares those values. I mean, to add to your point again, this is probably something that is very dear to us in the sense that it's as dear as religion is, perhaps to a priest, or as politics is to a senator or a governor. So this is very dear to our hearts and near to our hearts. And so when we are forced to find a partner outside of these walls, of these vegan walls, perhaps it could be a little bit tricky. This is something that is very important from an existential standpoint. You make a lot of decisions based on your veganism, at least I do. And it's not just what goes on your plate. I mean, veganism to me has increased my awareness throughout my entire existence, from like politics to obviously food and like animal rights and human rights. Like, I see things so differently. What about you?
For me,
how has it changed your awareness?
It's changed my awareness in that now I see animals as being here with us instead of for us. Because even before I was vegetarian, but I went to SeaWorld, I went to aquariums. When I saw animals, if I saw a dog or something, I would just be focused on how that dog is cute, which is a benefit to me. Like, it's kind of all about me. Like, oh, I like that dog because I think they're cute. Going vegan now, it really shifted my perspective in terms of seeing animals as being here with us. And they might not be intelligent as us in the sense that they can't build buildings and build iPhones, but they have their own talents that we don't give them enough credit for. And in fact, in many ways, they're more magical and majestic than humans. So it's really taught me just to see animals in a different light.
Right. No, I'm with you. Let's see if we got some more questions. Okay, says here, I'm vegan, but as you know, in New Zealand, it's very expensive and there are not many options. Do you have any idea what I could eat LMFAO, like homemade?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually in New Zealand 2 weeks ago. I was there for a whole week, so I have plenty of suggestions. I can definitely say New Zealand is the least vegan-friendly place I've ever been, so I totally understand where you're coming from. Because, there's 4 million people and 50 million sheep in agriculture, so the entire country's based off of animal agriculture. So, yeah, I totally get that. It was so hard to find vegan options there. Just like any place, I did just fine. I was there with a vegan buddy of mine. Went to the grocery store. We got pasta, we got potatoes, we got lentils, we got chickpeas, we got spinach. And we went back to the hostels we were staying at and made the best meal ever. And it was the cheapest thing ever. the cheapest foods are all staple foods: fruits and vegetables, legumes, potatoes. And if you just do a bit of Googling and do a bit of research, you can find out how to do all of it. And the main thing that you always have to ask yourself, because especially in a place where there's no vegan options, there's no substitutes, it can seem like, you might be feeling like, oh, I'd be so... Oops, there we go. I'm going to zoom out there. Anyway, it can seem like, it might be tempting. Put yourself in the animal's position. What if you were about to have your throat cut open just because somebody didn't want to eat pasta and they wanted to eat a burger? How would you feel? When you do that, it makes the decision night and day, because eating pasta instead of the burger, which you might value the taste more, is nothing compared to the victim who's having their throat cut open.
Totally. So you got a lot of pasta fans in the house. I do appreciate it. Speaking of food, let's tone things down for a bit and have a little bit of fun. What have your breakfasts, lunches, and dinners been as of late?
Dude, during quarantine, I've been microwaving a lot of stuff, to be honest. I've been, I'm not a chef by any stretch of imagination. I've just been having, let me think. So today, breakfast, I had packaged oatmeal and I just poured some water in. And then lunch, I had some cereal. And then for a snack, I had some vegan mini pizza bites. And I have been because the thing is, I was training at the gym 6 days a week before quarantine, eating super healthy, whole food, plant-based on it. And then when the gym closed, that also because I was so used to going to the gym, and after coming home making a super healthy meal, I gotta get back onto it. I'm already gaining some weight. I can already sense I feel worse.
Yeah.
So I gotta get back on it, man.
So the words whole foods, plant-based diet mean nothing to you right now.
Right now, no. Yeah, not at all.
Okay. Yeah. So again, microwavable pizza, instant oatmeal. What was the other one?
Cereal.
For lunch?
Yes.
That's hilarious. Do you have plenty of food to get yourself by right now?
Yeah, the thing is, whenever I go in when me and my dad go to the grocery store, we can't fill up the shopping. It's just kind of run in, get the essentials, and just run out.
You're more fearful for your life than what you actually end up eating.
Yeah, I guess so, right?
Aren't you in a rush so bad that you might actually grab something that's contains dairy? Aren't you?
Dude, that'd be bad, man. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, oh my god, what if?
My goodness. So plenty of more questions are popping in here. Okay, speaking of food, worst vegan food you ever ate? Didn't you mention something recently about that in your trip?
Dude, did I have anything bad? Oh, that was the Vegemite. Yeah, that was the thing they have.
Yeah, that Australian sort of spread.
Yeah, it's not, I guess technically it's vegan, but yeah, it's not like a quote-unquote vegan food. But yeah, this thing called Vegemite that they have in Australia, that was the worst thing I've ever had. It's like this spread and it sucked.
What's it made of? Did you read the ingredients?
It tasted like vinegar, man. It tasted like vinegar. It was awful. But that's what they have. They put it on everything. I don't know how. Yes, from when you're young, if you always have it, you get used to it. That was the worst thing I've ever had.
Did you just spread it over bread or something? Did you?
Yeah, well, I thought it was like a butter. Apparently you go really spread it over But apparently you're only supposed to do a fine dip. It's some bit of pepper or something, and I just put it on as if it was cream cheese. And then so I did not do it the right way.
Okay, all right.
Anyway.
You didn't bother asking the locals. You just wanted to give it a whirl.
Nah, yeah, I just wanted to wing it.
Okay. Hud, what does your future dream job look like?
My future dream job? I want that job I'm having right now until I'm 80 years old, working for Anonymous for the Voiceless. So I'm really grateful for that. I have the job of my dreams.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, this is a tough one. What's your opinion on the markets in China that sell live dogs to eat?
My opinions, just another form of human supremacy, and it's horrible. It's disgusting. In the bigger picture, I'd ask, because I doubt anybody right here, and nobody. China blocks Instagram, so I like to focus my social media on raising that question. If there's that big hypocrisy there between being outraged at this festival in China, the Yulin Dog Festival, while consuming the tortured flesh and secretions of cows, pigs, and chickens, and buying dogs from breeders who completely objectify their animals. So it's the hypocrisy at its finest.
Yeah, I actually posted about how we need less wet markets and more farmers markets. That was my post earlier today.
Yeah, right on.
We really, man, and I guess this goes back to the question that we discussed on how we can actually rectify this problem. So right now, I think that a huge silver lining is the fact that we know that it's scientifically proven that this pandemic that's keeping us indoors, as you previously stated, is originated from animals. And so I think people like ourselves, you and I and Ryuji and Paul and the rest of the activist community, we need to double down, man. We need to triple down on the amount of content. And not just that, I wholeheartedly believe that we need to use COVID-19 as a focal point to spread awareness and let people know that we are in this position because what you choose to eat is no longer a personal choice that affects just you. No, that it affects your wife, your kids, your neighbor, and literally every single person walking the face of the earth right now. So I think that we need to double down on the amount of content and the way we put out there for the foreseeable future, namely 2 to 3 months. It has nothing to do with anything else but COVID-19. So, like, following that train of thought, by now I'm sure you've inspired plenty of people into going vegan, right? Many of which are now entrenched quite deeply in this community. What advice would you give someone who is perhaps on the fence about becoming an activist, and what first steps do you recommend taking first?
The first thing I would say is that if you're going to be an activist, being an activist is the last thing you would ever want to do if you want to be liked. This, especially, you could be liked as an activist if you're speaking up against sweatshops in China, because everybody here in the U.S. is going to be like, yeah, right on, like, go for it. When it comes to this, it's a very lonely road because vegans are, they say vegans are the 1%. I think that's a total exaggeration. When it comes to actual ethical vegans, we're in the thousands. And it is a very lonely road. It's not easy. That's the first thing I'd tell you. And what I'll also tell you is that it's the most fulfilling thing that you can ever do. Because even though there's only a handful of people who will be supportive of what you're doing and have the same mindset, you will develop such a strong bond with those people. Like Francis, for example, for you, it's like, I'm sure you agree. You can keep living this life where you're just doing what everyone else is doing and just kind of always being a person pleaser. Or you could speak the truth, speak up for the most oppressed victims on our planet, the animals, because we're killing trillions of them by the year. And then you'll find a small group of people who are the most real, down-to-earth people you will ever meet. And for me, that makes it all worth it. So if you want to be an activist, just know that it's a lonely road. Know that you will find real ones. And also know that the fulfillment that you'll get for speaking up for the billions of animals who are completely silenced. You never hear about this on the news. You never hear about this anywhere. That feeling that you get in your heart when you do that is so rewarding and just doesn't feel like anything else. And it makes all of that yelling that you've been getting and all of the social discomfort that you've been receiving, makes it all worth it when you get to impact the world in such a positive way.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It's 100% lonely. Friends in this community are hard to come by. Just vegans in general are hard to come by, much less activists. So, and to add to your point again, sometimes when I do a cube and I have a genuine, authentic, warm conversation in which I truly get to know the person, that person opens up to me. A random stranger, for whatever reason, chooses to be honest with you and walks away from your outreach having that seed planted. That right there makes my version of everything worth it. Like 100%. All the slack, all the bullying at work. I'm a federal government agent, by the way. And so I don't have a lot of vegans in my workplace, and so they're always poking fun at my pastas and my sandwiches with no meat in them and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, when I do a cube once a month and somebody walks away after having that heart to heart with me, knowing that eventually they will take my business card and they will see those Netflix documentaries and they will start with Meatlit Mondays and they will perhaps even follow you on Instagram, that to me, man, that is, to use the word, rewarding in and of itself. I mean, that is just like otherworldly to me. That
100%.
connection, it's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing.
And the one thing I also want to add, if you want to be an activist, something that I didn't realize until recently, sort of this year, I used to value my conversations and effectiveness in terms of how receptive they were in that moment. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, my best my best conversations, and nowadays what I'm realizing, because I've had 3 people that I convinced to go vegan on the streets show up to the cubes. All 3 of those people who not only went from meat eaters to a vegan activist, all 3 of them, I called them animal abusers, I called them hypocrites, and they walked off. They were pissed. Like, this guy, what the hell? Like, this guy, just called me an animal abuser. And then and then it resonates. They think about it more and more. So they don't have to be like, oh, I'm gonna go vegan, thank you so much. They can walk. You can call them an animal abuser. They'll walk off. I have a friend, Jacob. Now I talked to him on the streets. I called him an animal abuser. He got pissed at me. He walked off. He showed up to the cube 3 months later, and I said, "What did it for you?" He's like, "When you called me an animal abuser," because I realized I didn't want to face it at first, but the more I thought about it over the days, I had to make a change, and then I had to go vegan, and now I want to speak up. So that's something I'd recommend if you want to get involved in activism. Not every conversation is going to be a success by that textbook effect, but there are many conversations that you'll never know, that the ones that seem like they're the worst ones, when you get under people's skin, they really feel guilty about what they're doing. That's often when they change the most.
Yeah. So as of 2020, are you using that guilt trip a little bit more in your activism?
I wouldn't even say I'm guilt tripping. All I'm doing is holding up a mirror to their own values. When they say,
I like that.
There's no guilt tripping. I say, do you think animal abuse is wrong? They say, yes. I'm like, what are you going to do about it then? What do you think you can do about it? And then they're like, oh, you're guilt tripping me. I'm just saying, what do you think you could do about it? And it's
Isn't it funny how they are the ones to believe that you aren't guilt tripping them when you just merely ask a simple question?
Yeah, it's just like if somebody said, yeah, I'm against racism. Okay, yeah, so what do you think you could do about it? They're like, oh, are you telling me to become a non-racist? What? Stop guilt tripping me. Yeah. In any other context, it'd be so silly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that reverse psychology is more advantageous in this community than doing that. Yeah, I'm totally with you. So as per my clock here, we got 7 minutes until this live kicks us off. You want to continue, perhaps?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah, we go for another
okay.
longer.
Sounds good. I got a really good question here. Let me see if I can whip it out. I went vegan for the animals, and now I have so much anger towards humanity. Any advice on staying
positive? Probably
positive. Yes. Okay.
My advice is, you should be angry. You should be very angry at what's going on to the animals. The way to channel that anger, I have found, is through effective activism, and through effective activism where you're not letting the message be compromised. I used to get really angry, and my angriest days was the 6 months between when I was vegan and not an activist, because I had all this built up. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then what I did was that I went on the streets with Anonymous to the Voiceless, and I began speaking up. And then I was able to channel this anger into something positive. And especially now, when you go up on the streets and you have that conviction, that anger will give you conviction, and people will respect that when you're talking to them. And as long as you're not angry at the individual, as long as if your heart is in the right place and you're angry at animal abuse, you're not angry at non-vegans, that'll go a long way, and people can pick up on that. So my best advice for you would be to do activism. In this time of quarantine, get on social media. You have so much time now on social media. Everybody's on social media too because of quarantine. Instead of just posting selfies or whatever, speak up about what caused this virus or the root cause of eating animals. And what you'll find is that anger will start to go away, because when you do effective activism and you're speaking up, given this. So that's the advice that I would give to you. Just channel that into something, and then through that you'll meet people, you'll get in the community, and it won't feel so lonely, and you'll be able to meet other like-minded people.
Yeah. Again, adding to your point, I think that most of this community at one point in time was not vegan. So sometimes I will approach a fellow new activist or somebody that wants to get into this movement, and I tell them, listen, how would you like to be convinced? Would you like to be attacked? Would you like to be called an asshole or anything like that? No, of course not. You would like to be reasoned with. You would like to be slowly and steadily, put towards a good movement. Like you would want people to be nice to you about this, not attack you directly. So do your activism from a point of view that will incentivize you as opposed to repel you from what you actually want happening at the end of the day. Right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think that it's, especially with like the new approach that I've been doing. It can, off the surface, it can seem like, I say how the best benefit for you going vegan is that you don't have to be a hypocrite. It can seem like, oh, that's really attacking, that's really rough. People pick up on the fact that when there's footage of pigs being thrown into gas chambers, when you're with your group and you're speaking up, and when we're just promoting this message of anti-animal abuse, it's very different than just willy-nilly calling people hypocrites. And people can really pick up on that, and people do have a lot of respect for that. And I would say you don't need to interrupt people, you don't need to yell at people, you don't need to get some big megaphone and go scream at people, you can, but but you can still be very respectful while being direct.
True. That is true. I think that's an acquired talent, if you will. I see a lot of talented activists doing outreach, namely, where they are so well versed into establishing that balance between, leading questions versus, poking your conscience a little bit. I think that blend of activism is what makes you great, what makes Ryuji great. I'm loving the way Joey does it. Paul tends to poke a little bit more than ask leading questions, but he's just as effective as the next guy. I mean, it's just like so pleasing to watch how different activists from around the world approach different situations, different people, different topics, different backgrounds, so on and so forth.